Welcome back to SwitchCorner. My name is Alex and today we're taking a look at Skate City on the Nintendo Switch. And I think it's fair to say here a lot of us are eagerly awaiting Tony Hawk to reach the Switch. But can this one do enough to hold us over until that sees release or even stand alongside it? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch. As much as we all do here, join our growing family and let's get started. So gameplay, and first off, this is a 2.5D skater, meaning you're moving left to right, but you can grind rails, benches, all that good stuff in the background and foreground. The controls though, simple, and that makes sense. This actually started life on Apple Arcade, and it's very easy to find your way around its simplistic implementation. A will push you forward, B will slow you down with a power slide. Aside from that though, the L and R triggers will rotate your skater in the air, and ZR and L will kick you into a manual, whether that's a standard manual or nose. So you may be wondering now about tricks, and these are all linked to the left and right stick. Different direction will give you a different trick. There's actually multiple different types, so you've got 8 that will kick in from the flat ground, 8 grinds, and then 8 unlockable special tricks. Again, like I said, like simple stuff, and the path to success here really is in just chaining them together with a combination of, ollies and tricks mixed in then with grinds and manuals. The last thing to say on controls then, grinds as well, they do kick in automatically when there's some sort of suitable platform around you, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It of course makes sense given the shift of the skater to the background or the foreground, something you can't control, but it did lead to occasions when I would, grind, let's say, when I didn't want to, like I wanted to maybe land a spin trick instead. Also vice versa, when I wanted it, it didn't kick in at all and I ended up crashing. I wish it was attached to an input to tell the game, yes, I want to grind right here. The depth for the trick system, honestly, not quite as deep as I had hoped. It's still fun to see these tricks coming together, as is typical with the genre. It's kind of rewarding when you get a chain going, but I wish it pushed things even further and maybe combine the sticks for something really special. The gameplay though, visit one of the 3 locations in the game, that's Los Angeles, Oslo and Barcelona, and yeah, overcome its challenges. So Los Angeles will actually be the only location available initially, but you can quickly unlock the other 2 within maybe 30 to 45 minutes of gameplay. That unlocking is simple enough, it's just a point value is attached and you just need to clear that in LA. Each location though has 21 challenges and then an endless skate mode. This endless skate mode, it contains 30 goals to achieve. The challenges, they're mostly kind of bite-sized adventures, maybe a minute in length to a max of maybe 2 or 3, and this could be something like high score chasing, maybe following trick callouts on screen, winning races, getting away from the cops. There's a decent amount of variety in them. None of them are groundbreaking, but they definitely make for a decent enough mix, and each of them then has 3 stars attached dependent on how you do, so no doubt that's going to be appreciated by the completionist community out there. Endless skate then, similar enough, but they call it goals, and you can go as long as you need as you pull off a list of goals that you will find on the main menu. Of course then though, you can quit this, come back at any time, it will save your progress. The difficulty in the game with these goals, it does gradually rise just slightly. Outside of that though, the locations are mostly the same, clear ledges and rails to grind, a whole lot of staircases making for gaps, and then the occasional obstacle in your way, from the classic cracks in the floor and sand. They must have played California games on the Mega Drive, or let's say something like a picnic table or occasional pedestrian. Its ambitions in its design for obstacles, I've got to say, don't really go for much beyond the generic expectations of the skateboard genre from like the 90s. The only other thing to gameplay then though, really a shop. Here you can customize your character with skin color, hair color, gender, as well as 5 hairstyles. Then you can look into doing things like unlocking and buying new decks, wheels, trucks, clothes, shoes and hats. None of it changes the gameplay though, it is purely cosmetic, and it's a simple addition but a good one, as it gives you something to chase, because everything obviously means you need to clear more and more goals and earn more points. It all works well enough, honestly, but here's my issue. I didn't find it particularly exciting. It was entertaining for 5 to 10 minute play sessions here and there, but it didn't capture the feeling of, say, Skate, Tony Hawk, or perhaps more comparable, Ollie Ollie. It's just so simplistic in its controls, it never felt hugely rewarding, and that's an issue for a game built for the most part around, high score chasing. Likewise then, the lack of any sort of multiplayer, local or online, or even leaderboards. Yeah, I can say I had some fun clearing off the 21 challenges at each location and then ticking off a good chunk of the goals, but I don't really now have any desire to keep on pushing forwards. And again, I'm going to say, it's not a bad game either, it's just its Apple Arcade roots are clear, the small burst format of gameplay. The final thing to close out gameplay though then, and this is kind of the most curious bit of it all, we're actually missing content from the Apple Arcade build. A fourth location was introduced, that is Miami, and that's a little weird if you ask me. You're transitioning to consoles but with less content. That seems a little bit backwards when the asking price is a little bit higher for us. Graphically then, it's nice enough. It goes for a low detail look to it, that's for sure stylistic, and the locations at points, they do look nice, and it's for sure taking influence from a low poly style, while maybe adding just a little bit more detail. I think it was a good design though, given the 2D world, and the shadows here, they for sure help to define your place in the world, but it's also not perfect either. Outside of a few pedestrians and some weather effects at times, these locations, they're just a little bit lifeless, given it's supposed to be, LA, Oslo and Barcelona. They for sure try to get the look of these locations, and they do at points. It just doesn't feel like the locations, it kind of misses the heart. Also, you'll quickly notice repetition in these environments as the same structures come into sight near immediately: tables, pedestrians, jumps, staircases, rails. This is all within maybe the first 5 minutes of gameplay. For the relatively small size of each of these locations, I think a little bit more variety would have absolutely gone a long way. Audio finally, and not a huge amount to it. The skateboards sound good, but this is a really empty sound field. There's a dull sounding crash effect that's really kind of lackluster, and then there's the occasional birds chirping for the environment. That is it. I wish they had built this up, because the lo-fi music that's over the top, it's decent enough with some nice tracks in here. I'm just not quite sure it's strong enough to carry the entire game, and it's kind of mellow vibe started to grate with me a little bit. I wanted upbeat, I wanted intense, I wanted, to be honest, the Tony Hawk soundtrack, so that's exactly what I did. I whacked it on over on Spotify. It is good music, don't get me wrong, I just think it needed a little more variety in the tempo department. So the final verdict, and I know it's probably going to come off this far, that I don't really like this one, and that is not the case, even though I have a fair few complaints about it. It's just a case of its simplistic design means it's not the high score chasing I had hoped for. Also, the simplistic controls means there's very little to master. For this one, it really is, as the devs say themselves, it's designed for kind of daily play of maybe 15 to 20 minutes. That's fair enough. I just wish it had more depth. It feels like you are playing easy mode, and there's no way to force the game to kind of push you past that in its moveset. Now sure, some of the challenges, they can be a pain in the ass towards the end of each stage, but I wanted to get more out of my skater. I wanted to feel that just one more go feeling to get a new high score, and I just didn't really once get that. The graphics are stylish, but they're let down with mostly repetitive design. The audio in its sound design at least is lacking, and the music is good. I just wish they had maybe a few more tracks in here with maybe kind of up that tempo. Throw in the fact then there's no local high score battles, no online, no leaderboards. And yeah, it just kind of feels like a very empty package. This is, as they said, look for those looking for short blasts here and there, but I wouldn't come here expecting to sink hours on end into it, that is for sure. It was actually going to be an above average 6 out of 10 from me today, but when I discovered at the very last minute they actually added Miami to the Apple build, it dropped it from that to an average 5 out of 10. I think it absolutely achieves its intention of like a mellow skateboard experience. I just don't think it's going to appeal to the skateboard kind of masses out there, and then with that as well, the missing stage, I just don't really see now any reason to choose this build first. And I don't hate on Apple Arcade games coming across either, I want to put that out there. I actually love seeing Apple Arcade games come across, like Grindstone, perfect example, amazing game. This one though, for me, I just can't really justify why it's made the move. Will you be adding this one to the library or skipping and saving that cash? With that then, like a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I have linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.